Everyone, welcome to our August 2021 Fifth Window Spotlight. My name is Charlene Platon, CEO and co-founder of Fifth Window, and thank you all so much for joining us here today. We host these spotlights every month to highlight nurses and their journeys of self-care and well-being, and also to highlight the diverse profession of nursing. And for today's spotlight, we will be able to screen questions that come in and comments that come in during our conversation. This is a live stream conversation, so if you have questions and you're tuning in from LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, please feel free to drop in a comment or a question, and we will do our best to answer your questions or respond to your comments. And so now we would like to start by introducing the team. So we'll go ahead and have Kathy introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Kathy Schaefer. I am a registered nurse, a co-founder of Fifth Window with Charlene, and I'm also a compassion fatigue professional and a trauma-informed specialist.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kathy. And we would also like to now introduce our August 2021 Fifth Window Spotlight guest. And so we would like to introduce Dr. Princess Fumi Stephanie Hancock. And Dr. Hancock is known as the Princess of Suburbia, and she is an African princess living in Diaspora. She's a board-certified psychiatric mental health doctor of nursing practice, first Black to grace the TEDx Talk platform in Al-Anjal, Saudi Arabia. She is a 17-time best-selling author. She's also considered your compassionate trauma care expert. She's a Johnson & Johnson Nurse Innovation Fellow, SONSIEL member, CEO of POBPsychiatry, which is a group of mental health clinics in Arizona, and the creator of Storyteller Bistro, an online educational platform which helps people with trauma use rehabilitative storytelling to change their narratives. Thank you so much, Princess Fumi, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor, and I'm just so glad to see you here. And there's so much to talk about, and I just want to first start with your personal journey and, you know, living in Nigeria with royal responsibilities as an African princess, and then coming to the United States. You know, that sounds like an incredible journey, and I just want to know, how old were you when you first came to America, and what prompted you to stay in the United States?
That's an interesting story. I believe I was 16 years old when I first got here. I just came on a vacation and then went back home, I finished my first degree at 17, I believe. And then I kind of told my dad, I said, okay, just give me 1 year. Let me go sow my royal oats in America. I'm going to be back in 12 months. Don't worry, I'll be back. Well, the rest is history. So I decided not to go back home for a while and kept doing my own thing here. I wanted something really different from where I was, because back there, I was responsible for quite some things, even though I was younger then. I wanted to kind of spread my wings a little bit, be free, live a free life, and see how it feels like for nobody be behind you or something like that. So, and that's what got me to America.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, you know, how has your background living in Nigeria and being part of the royal family, how has it impacted your career and your life in the United States?
Well, now, back in those days, I knew I always wanted to do something that has to do with caring. I tried looking into medicine, but I didn't quite like medicine because I felt like it was a little bit cold for me. And the kind of character and behavior that I wanted to be somebody that could love somebody, that could put a little bit of love behind things. So medicine just did not work for me. Now with nursing, that was a different story. I wanted nursing, but in those days back in Nigeria, nurses were looked on as almost like prostitutes, really. You know, they were looked at like somebody who had no brains, someone who had to follow the physicians in everything. So coming from a royal family, that was just a no-no. I mean, it was just like, my goodness, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. And so for me, coming here to the US, so what I needed to do back home was going to writing, because I felt like, okay, writing was a little bit soft, gentle, and it was just writing about social justice. I mean, who's going to get hurt over that one? So I did that when I was in Nigeria with the hopes of when I came here, I was going to be able to do whatever I wanted to do, which was nursing. And so growing home, back there, growing in the family, in the royal family, you were responsible. There are just certain things that you could not do on the outside, right? But my dad, who is the prince, was very good at shielding us. He shielded us from a lot of traditional, cultural things that were not quite great. And so, but for him, even though he was a prince, he taught us to work hard. He said, I don't care if you're a princess, I do not care if your grandfather was a king of whatever. You're gonna work hard and you're gonna go down to those people that you're going to be serving later, because you are a servant. You're not someone that, someone has to carry their pants, but you are a servant. Being a princess makes you a servant. And so he trained us and raised us to even outside of the perimeter of the palace, to be servants and nothing else.
That's so fascinating. That really sounds like servant leadership, the concept of servant leadership. And that's just such an interesting background. And I really appreciate you sharing your story, because that sounds like an incredible journey. And you just kind of grazed over the whole writing, but you're no stranger to writing. You're a very gifted and talented writer and best-selling author, in fact, and you've written over 24 books, if I'm not mistaken. And I just want to know, what was the focus on the books that you write, and how would you encourage others, especially nurses, to write, share their messages? Just wanted to learn more about that.
Let's start with this. Nurses are storytellers anyway. Let's just start with that. Most of us don't know that, but we are storytellers, because every time we would go to the bedside and take care of somebody, you're always left with somebody's story. So nurses are storytellers. For me, storytelling is healing. For me, I kind of take storytelling and I look at it and I say, well, this is how I can help others to heal. So let me share this with people. In every profession, there are challenges, right? And so when I started to write, let me say this, I was rejected over 40 times. I need to back up on that a little bit. I was rejected. I want somebody who might be frustrated, who might be listening to this either live or back. I was literally rejected 40 over, well, I stopped counting at 40, frankly, 40 times. But you want to know what happened? That 40 times was what I needed to push through. I was never one to give up. And so I said to myself, okay, if you're not going to publish me, I'll publish myself. And so I started off publishing myself on Amazon, thought it was a joke. And then, did it the very first time, woke up, somebody woke me up and said, oh, Princess, you just became a best-selling author. I said, what does that mean? What do you mean a best-selling author? What does that mean? And that was my first one. Would you know that very first book happened to be the same one that was rejected over 40 times?
Wow.
What was it about?
Well, it was about my life. It was an inspirational.
I could imagine that being that's definitely a bestseller.
And it became a bestseller. And till today, this is now, I'm talking about 1996, till today, I have filmmakers, I have people still calling me and saying, can we turn it into a movie? And I said, I already have that space already. So you're going to have to come to me with something other than, can we make it into a movie? Because I have a storyline on that one too. So I began to write. So for nurses that are out there, start with just op-ed, right? It can be an op-ed on something very simple. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic, but it can be a simple op-ed in your local area, your local newspapers. And that's how I started. I started off with a local op-ed, and I took that same story and I began to enlarge it into a short story. I took that short story and I moved it into a bigger book. A lot of the things that we do in life right now, just walking outside of your home, you might be surprised that you have nuggets of wisdom in them. So I'm one that write on journals a lot. And so my first book was a compilation of about 3 or 4 journals.
That's amazing. And in addition to the writing, I know you have quite a history of filmmaking. Can you tell us about that?
Well, yeah, there's another story about that too. So I said to myself, I said, okay, best-selling author. Okay, that's cool. All right. I love stories too. I love stories. I'd like to know more about filmmaking. Well, I actually went to filmmaking school at New NYU. And so when I was down there, I said, oh, what could be wrong? NYU, all that, hey, bang, bang, back pop. Well, it didn't go that way. So I tried knocking at Hollywood, wanted to work, wanted to write script. Another one, another bite to dust. So I decided, okay, the first one I did, the publishing, I had to kick the door down. So I guess I have to kick the door down in filmmaking. So I started the Princess of Suburbia YouTube. So for you nurses out there, you might want to look into YouTube too. So I started and I said, well, if I'm going to be good at this thing here, I might as well just start on YouTube. So some of my friends, we were sitting around just kidding, and they said, oh, you Princess of Suburbia. I said, hold it. Did you just say Princess of Suburbia? They said, yeah, you Princess of Suburbia, you prima donna, Princess of Suburbia. And that's how I ended up trademarking Princess of Suburbia and became Princess of Suburbia on YouTube. And before I knew it, in 12 months, it became, I had over 4-point-something million people watching the Princess of Suburbia. And all I did were just skits, 4-minute skits. It didn't even have anything to do with mental health. It was just me. I'll see something going on the TV and I'll invite a friend and say, well, did you hear that? Did you see what happened there? And before I knew it, people were watching it from all over the world. Have, as nurses, we have all these tools in our hands, just like what you're using now. We have all these tools in our hands. And it's just a question of having the tenacity and the willingness to be able to push through. It's not a question of how many times you got shut down. It's a question of how many times you dust yourself and get back up again and do it. So with filmmaking, that's how I got into filmmaking. And now I make movies, inspirational movies about women, movies that really tell stories. One is Fearless Visionaries, that have won incredible Hollywood awards. And I'm just grateful for that.
Where can we watch your movies?
Oh, you can. Well, okay. So you can go on, I guess, YouTube now, or even Amazon, because I kind of sold it. I sold some of my movies out to a lot of the agents. So they put it on different platforms. Some of them have actually gone on films in theaters, and now they're out of season right now. So they're probably in, I don't know. I think if you Google YouTube, you'll see some of it there. Or if you go on Amazon Fire or something, I don't know. I just sold it. I just not sold them, and I'm done with it. And I'm going to the next.
You're like, it's out there. That's great.
Definitely find, because Fearless Visionary is one that I'm so passionate about. It's about, I took 18 women from all over the world, brought them together. People that have dealt with trauma, different backgrounds. You have engineer on them. You have people that are lived in Dubai, lived in Saudi, all over, and I turned every single one of them into #1 best-selling author. And we traveled the world last year. It was just incredible.
That is amazing. I really have no words to describe how incredible that is. And in speaking about nursing and nurses, can you tell us how did you transition your career from writing and filmmaking all the way to the other side to nursing?
I know, right? You're talking about two brains right there.
That's
but the
amazing.
difference with me was that my brains were still working together, really, because the stories that I told were stories that I heard from people that I took care of. There were stories that I experienced myself, with someone like me who's dealt with sexual abuse before. I've dealt with failed marriage before. I've dealt with suicidal ideation, even attempt. So that stories, my life was a story in itself. And so if you're a nurse out there, start with your life, because here's the thing: if you don't have the latitude and the openness and the willingness to want to even share your story, now who's going to share their story with you? So a lot of times I
Hmm.
tell my nurses, because a lot of us we want to tell stories, but share your story, because your eyes, right? People want to see the world through your eyes as nurses. As nurses, we care. As nurses, we are people who comfort others when they are sad, So when you are persistent as a nurse, it's important that you first start with your story. The power of your stand, the power of your story as a nurse will actually push you and thrust you into writing if you so desire.
Hmm. Absolutely. I do think everyone has their own story, and so many great things can happen when you share that. And and in speaking about your own career in nursing, how did you start in nursing? Was it at the bedside, or what specialties did you dive into?
Oh, I went into everything. ICU, I did critical care, because I knew when I wanted to start, I was a second career. I started off as a social worker, first as a writer, then a social worker. Then I was done with social work because I felt like it was a cyclical thing. That I needed a holistic solution to something, and social work did not give me that satisfaction. So I moved into nursing as a second career person. And so for me, before I finally kind of said, okay, mental health it is, I wanted to see what was out there. So I started off in critical care, did some years in critical care, and said, that's not for me. And so and so I was
Yeah,
done with
there's
that.
a
I said,
lot of.
well, okay, what to
Mhm.
do now? What to do? All right, let me do telemetry. Oh, okay, cool. Nah, that's not it for me. And so for me, mental health was just that's who I am. That's who I've always been, even as a princess back in Africa, taking care of other people, talking about stories, rehabilitative story. That was who I am. Taking drips and doing this. I mean, there are other people that are great at that, but that just wasn't me. Mine was sitting down and I listened a lot. I was one of those that listened a lot more than I would talk when I would meet patients. So it was just logical that mental health was in for me. Now, if you're a nurse out there, you need to find your path. You need to find your rhythm. Now, you might be the greatest critical care nurse. Then, hey, bravo. Then deal with that, do that, and stand in the power of that. Whatever it is, whatever part of nursing that you find yourself, there's always a story to tell.
Absolutely. And I know you have so many stories to tell, and I've seen you on television, and you're all over, I feel like all over the media, and it's just incredible. And can you share about your interviews you've been doing on television, and what messages are you trying to convey in these interviews, and what would you like to share with the audiences?
I tell you, when the pandemic hit last year, that was a big thing for me, because I began to watch a lot of the TV shows, and I would watch a lot of news, and I would see physicians, I would see people that were ER and all this, and I would never see a nurse. And once in a while, when I see a nurse, I see them all, tired with goggles by the bedside. And the only thing that they would ask them is about the story by the bedside. And I began to say, wait a minute now, nurses are more than that. We are more, we are researchers, we are storytellers. It doesn't matter what part, what sector nurses are there. We showcase We showcase not just the healthcare industry, we showcase other industries too. So I began to now sit down and say, okay, if nobody else would do it, so I started off with trying to interview a nurse in my group, and I said, hey, can I interview you because you've been through COVID and you actually survived COVID. And she said something to me that was powerful. She said, oh, I know I survived it. Oh yeah, but I just like to be in the background. And that hit me. And that really, really hit me. And I said, why do you want to be in the background? Say, oh no, I'm just a nurse. And I said, you are just a nurse. And so I decided, I said, well, this year, 2021 was going to be a year where I was going to prove something to myself and to the other nurses that are in my group, that we are more than just bedpan peddlers, right? We just don't peddle bedpans. We do more than that. We are researchers. We are scientists. We are writers. We are all of this. And it's important that we have to showcase it. When you look at the number of things that are going on in the world right now, how many times do we get to see nurses that are really sitting, right? I'm not talking about nurses that they just put something on them for a few minutes they just add the night shift. No, really sitting at the table of analysts and talking. How many of us are really being invited to sit and say, hey, talk to us about mental health. Talk to us about what's going on with pandemic. You hardly find that. And so because of that, I decided, I said, this year I was going to prove a point. And my point was, I was going to prove that we are more than bedpan peddlers. And that's why you see all over this year, in so many places, CBS, NBC, I've been on so many Fox and even places that I don't want to be in. All the way to Canada. I have some things that I've done in Canada, and I have some upcoming ones in Canada too. Just to say and inspire my other nurses that you are more than we cannot say that we want nurses to be out there and we want to stay in the background. Come on, y'all.
Absolutely.
Just and come forward.
And we actually have so many comments that are coming in, and Kathy, do you want to read some of these comments? There's so much positivity coming through.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about positivity. People are just commenting that you are truly an inspiration. We have we have some people that are taking notes. That you are exactly saying what needs to be said about nurses, that we are the backbone and that we need to tell our truth and we need to tell our story. And people are just commenting on everything you're saying with exclamation points and thumbs up, and you are an inspiration to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just wanted to share because what you're saying is really resonating with the nurses who are listening, and I'm sure many more who will continue to watch this after the recording is done, or after the live stream is done. So really, thank you for being a champion for nurses and the profession of nursing. And nursing is a challenging profession too, and there are times when we might encounter challenges along the way. And do you have any examples you want to share about your journey as a nurse in terms of times where you might have had challenges or roadblocks that you wanted to overcome, or any struggles within the profession that you had to overcome?
Oh, thank you for asking that. When I was in Tennessee, right, I finished my school when I was in Tennessee. And I decided, I said, well, how do I want to go about with this nursing? What do I really want to achieve with nursing? I knew that I wanted a situation where I could bridge a gap between Africa and America, right? But I didn't quite know how. And thank God for, Johnson & Johnson that came to kind of help me streamline it. I also knew that I also wanted to do mental health, but I still didn't know how to make that happen. So we live in this age where nurses are taking care of clinics, literally single-handedly taking care of clinics. And yet they tell us that we're not capable of doing that. They tell us that we're not capable of doing what we're already doing. They tell us, wait a minute now, you cannot own your clinic. You can't do that because you need collaboration, even though the person you're collaborating with is in Hawaii somewhere, sitting by the beach with pina colada while you're sitting in the clinic, single-handedly doing that. And so I looked at America as a whole and said to myself, well, where in these areas can I practice freely without anybody hindering me? And so that's how I ended up from Tennessee to Arizona. And coming to Arizona, right, there's a lesson for somebody out there who is listening, who is a little bit tired of the shenanigans around nursing, can't do this. And so I came to Arizona because I knew that Arizona would give me that freedom to be able to just open my clinic and just run with it. And so when I even came here, people said, you better be careful, look around here, look around there. There's a red here, there's blue there, there's middle there, all kind of people. So just be careful and all this kind of stuff. But I've never shied away from challenges. Even as a writer, I've never shied away. As a filmmaker, didn't shy away. So I wasn't going to shy away either. There were challenges with opening your very first practice. First, I had no clue what the heck I was doing, right? But this is what I did. I found me a great consultant and I hired that person. Let me repeat myself, because nurses a lot, we tend to want to just grab this and do it by ourselves and then fall flat in our faces and get up again. Yet we make a little bit that we can actually hand it over to a consultant that can help us. So I looked at my age, and I said, I ain't got no time for all this. So I just went straight and found me a consultant. I said, look, I do not have the time to start going through website trying to figure out nothing. No. So I found me a consultant and I said, look at this and this and this is what I want to achieve. Help me, walk me through it. How do I make this happen in Arizona? And how do I make it happen at a fast pace, faster than anybody can even breathe? How can I make this happen? And so I hired myself a consultant.
And I think you mentioned, oh, sorry, go ahead, Kathy.
Oh, I was just going to ask, so what was the consultant in? Like, was it a business consultant? Was a regulator consultant, a healthcare consultant? What was the consultant?
I found somebody that was doing what I wanted to do. She owned her own clinic. So I wasn't going to go find somebody, because there's a lot of consultants out there. Yeah. A lot of consultants. So I didn't want to cut through those tapes or whatever. And so I went and found somebody that actually, in fact, many people told me, okay, you're in Arizona. What you're trying to do, number one, how many Black people are doing it in this area? I haven't met them yet. So I went and found me the only Black one that I knew in not necessarily my area, in another area. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
5% Black folk in my area.
Yeah.
Let's make this happen. So find yourself the right consultant. It's not about what they put on their website. Let me say that again. It's not about what they put, because we can put up a whole lot of websites. It's not about that. But this person actually owned her practice, has owned a practice, still practicing, not was practicing, but still practicing, and could literally put me through everything. And when I opened my very first one, even my parents, everybody laughed and said, oh, stop kidding. And I said, no. I opened it. They did not believe it because they were like, in 3 months, you opened a clinic. You did that? I said, yes, I did. And they did not believe it until they saw the pictures and everything. I was like, dang, she did it.
Wow. And now you have not just one clinic, but how many clinics now? 3 clinics.
In
I
in
think
two
that's
years.
amazing.
In 2
In two
years.
years. And it's a nurse practitioner led clinic.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm trying to prove. I'm not trying to raise clinics for physicians. That's not what I'm
Mhm.
trying to do. I'm trying to raise clinics that could also empower nurse practitioners like myself. And not only that, also doing it so that people in Africa are actually watching me on some of my shows to see that this is also possible in Africa, because in Africa it's a totally different beast where nurse practitioner doesn't even exist, you know.
Right,
So
right.
now showing them a proof, you know, kind of like a proof that this is what you can have out there.
Yeah. I'm thinking that this is a great way also for nurses who have an established, like you said, practice,
Right.
act as consultants, but also mentor those who may be a little hesitant, like you know, afraid to fail. But if you have someone who's been doing this and knows the way, can guide you, these are the nurses we should be connecting with. These are the people who should be guiding us if we want to open our own practice, if we want to write, if we want to make a movie.
That's right.
It's
That's
those
right.
of us who've done it before. That's
And
a great,
and
yeah.
it's very effective. Not only that, it also cuts, you know, for example, if it would take you 5 years to do it, because you have that person, that 5 years become maybe 2 or even 1 year. And so for me, when I
Mhm.
came to Arizona, I was laser focused. I wasn't trying to be anything I wasn't trying to be anything for nobody. I was laser focused. And my focus was I was going to start my own practice that didn't have collaboration, that didn't have all that. Well, collaboration in, you know, when I talk about collaboration, I'm talking about, if I don't have you, my practice doesn't exist. That for me was just unacceptable. It was just not acceptable to me. Now to others, it could be because of the place that you live at. But for me, I looked at myself, I said, I'm just too old for running after anybody, being afraid, waking up afraid that if I'm making too much money, my collaborator can decide, okay, you either give me more or I'm out. I just wasn't, and I've had so many stories like that. And I was just like, I just don't have the appetite for that. So coming to Arizona just worked well for me because that was what I needed. I needed to have freedom to do what I wanted to do.
Exactly. And thank you for sharing. I mean, there's a lot more comments now coming in. A lot of nurses listening are very inspired by your story. Kathy, do you want to read some of these comments out?
Yeah. So actually, one of our guests who's on the joining us made a comment that they feel that the Future of Nurses report that just came out, Future of Nurses 2030, is going to hopefully decrease or remove those barriers when nurses have full authority, practice authority. So that was, do you agree with that? Do you think that's looks better for us now as nurses?
Yeah, I think at some point they would no longer have a choice. And that's the truth.
Right.
And they will no longer have a choice. I think Maryland several months ago opened their that state up too. And I really see other states that would follow suit. Now, there are some major states that we would have to really work harder on. For example, Texas is a big one. North Carolina the Carolinas is a very big one. Chicago. So there are some parts like that nurses, I feel like organizations need to be more out there. And the way that we could do that, even as individual, is us also getting ourselves into the media, not waiting for our organizations to do it. But if you get in on the media, you become an analyst on Fox News, or Charlene becomes an analyst on this. when we start having each one of us, and everywhere they go, every media they look at, instead of just seeing analysts that probably have not even practiced in 10 years, on the platform, and they start seeing nurses sitting at the table, they will no longer have that choice but to say, you know what, we got to open it. Look at what the pandemic has done. Even with the pandemic, the so-called nurses that they've said, oh, you cannot own yours, you cannot do this. But guess who's been running all these clinics?
Right.
So the same thing they said we can no longer do, or we're not able to do, we are doing it. So we're being used during the pandemic for whatever. And do you know that when they thought the pandemic was getting ready to be over, then you have some groups that writing letters and say, oh, it's time now to put the nurses back on that collaboration. I said, collaboration, my foot. I said, because we've been out there, doing all of these things. What you should be saying is, my goodness, we didn't think they could do it, but look at them. I think we need to expand it, not the other way around. So this is but nurses, we have to get up. It's time for us to get up. We might not be comfortable in front of the camera, but you know what? We need to work at it. We need to work at it, because the more nurses are at the table, I want to be seen. I want to be turning on the TV. And when I see any one analyst, it better be one nurse on that table too. I am tired of looking at, all these big platforms, media platforms, and not seeing nurses, but just seeing nurses rolling things, talking about, no, we do more than rolling things in the middle of hospitals.
Right. Exactly. And there is so much opportunity for nurses to really put themselves out there. And I think, and it doesn't have to be in the TV. It could be in writing. It could be on YouTube, just like all the different avenues that you've utilized. Social media is huge now too. And there's more and more nurses going on these platforms. So lots of opportunities to share the messages and to share the experiences of nurses. And we have a question in the chat. Kathy, do you want to read that?
Yeah, I'm actually having a little hard time pulling the chat up for some reason.
Okay.
There is a question. What are your thoughts regarding the
current salaries of nurses?
It being underpaid for so long, nurses and paying nurses and better benefits.
That's why I'm an entrepreneur today. Because
okay.
I think when you look at the way we work so hard that there are times I see some nurses say, oh, I did 40 hours or I did 80 hours and I got $10,000 that month. I said, well, divide that 80 and divide the 10,000. By the time you finish dividing it, you'll be surprised that you're the least paid amongst everything. So I said, so it's been the only way we can change this is if we put ourselves out there. Just like what Charlene says, it doesn't have to be the media. There's the print media where you can begin to write blogs about what you believe. Now, that question is so cool because somebody else can pick up that question and you can continue to actually write and interview other nurses simply based on that question. And the more we go out there, the more we put ourselves out there. Here's the thing. Other people in different parts of, profession, they're pushing, everybody's pushing their own profession. Now, why can't we push ours too beyond our bedside? If we want to be taken seriously, if we want to want people to really look at, for example, what she just talked about, then there are things that we have to do and not just wait and stay behind the scenes with our organizations that we're part of and say, oh, well, the organizations are in, Washington, D.C., they do it. We can do things individually that collectively, when they look at it, when people in Congress start Googling and they start seeing a slew of nurses say something about that thing there, You better believe it. Somebody else is going to pick it up. Someone will pick it up. So I think it starts with us nurses first defining what we want out of this, and now saying, you know what, I'm going to do my very best individually and then collectively so that we can make a difference. Because frankly, we're just like teachers. We don't get paid what we put out there. And that's the fact.
I think also for a very long time, we've accepted the negative norms, like working, like we're expected to work so much. We're expected not to have a mental health day. I mean, that we just accept it. And I think that it's time for us to say that that's not normal. Like we shouldn't be proud of the fact that I worked 4 12s and I picked up an extra shift, right? Like that's not a badge of honor. I don't think.
And I'm glad that you actually mentioned that, because a lot of people think that you should be, that's something to be proud of. Say, oh, how was your day? Oh God, I worked 16 hours. No, that's nothing to be proud of, because by the time, I tell you, my consultant did, when I was trying to start my first clinic, she did this exercise with me that just blew my mind. And I was consultant for another clinic back then, and they were really paying me very high. I mean, high 6 figures, right? So I said to myself, oh, high 6 figures, that's cool. So she gave me this assignment, and I said, well, it's going to be tough to leave that job. I want to start this clinic, but it's going to be really tough to leave that consultant. So she asked me what I was getting. I put it on the paper. Then she started to walk me through, divided by that month. So I did it. She said, okay, divided by that week, I did it. And by the time I was going to an hour, I was depressed. I started off from being, wow, I'm one of the best paying in this area, to dang. And when I saw that, then he said, okay, now put this here. I said, okay, here's your clinic. This is how many people do you want to see? I said, oh, I don't want to see more than 8 people a day. So, okay, how many people do you see now? Oh gosh, maybe 16, 20. He said, oh, okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, this is how much that you're gonna get average per health plan. Just working for 8 people, just 8 people for that day. This is how much for like 20, whatever for that day. She never had to convince me again, ever. After I saw that, I was like, oh boy, I've been whooping my own behind for a whole long time. So there are times, we get with nurses, they give you these big, bold numbers, and you get caught up in, whoa, that's a number. But if you really sit down and divide it by the number of hours you spend on that floor, you will be like, I need to go. I need to go.
Yeah. Walking lunches, maybe get to go to the bathroom once a shift. I mean, again, these are things that we think they're normal, but they're negative norms that we have all just accepted. It's
Yeah, and it's, thank you for sharing that. I think it's really inspiring to see you who, you're able to open your own clinics. I mean, one is hard enough, but you have 3, and I mean, that's amazing to see. I think a lot of nurses don't realize that that is an option too. And with entrepreneurship, I mean, doors have really opened. And, I think I'd love to hear more about, your work too with innovation. I know you're one of my co-fellows in the Johnson & Johnson Nurse Innovation Fellowship. And can you tell us what you're working on within the fellowship?
Oh gosh. All right. So there's this concept or project that I've been working on for years called Rehabilitative Storytelling. And so as a storyteller, I wanted to find a platform that can help me to not only tell the stories of my patients, but to also help them to use their stories to kind of heal and transform themselves from trauma to recovery. So J&J for me is an opportunity to be able to kind of take that what I'm working on right now, and also practice it in my practice, and come up with not just a platform, but also what do you call this? A system. That's the word. An innovative system that can teach nurses to actually use it with their patients, teach therapists to use it with their patients, and also even the patient can sit back and actually use it too to move themselves from trauma to recovery.
So you have introduced yourself, and you told us that you've got in your background you're a trauma care maestro. Can you tell us about the trauma care and the services you do provide?
Well, as a nurse practitioner here, I do not only medication management, but I do psychotherapy. And so with me, a lot of the patients that come to me, I have a lot of veterans that come to me. I have a lot of teenagers. Somehow they're attracted to me in this area. So I have a lot of teenagers that go through suicidal ideation, that have been molested, that have just been through all kinds of trauma. And so for me, I've always been one of those that, while I study a lot of research, rehabilitative storytelling is something that took me, myself, out of trauma into recovery. And so because I was able to go through it, it wasn't something that I planned, it just happened. And so once it happened, I said to myself, ooh, I could use this and use this on somebody else again. Then I start using it and start using it. And I was like, ooh, there is something here. And so for me, I believe in the power of storytelling. I believe that we all have stories, and there are times in life you can teach people a lot of things and they will forget. While you're teaching them, they're excited. Yeah. But one thing that they do not forget is story. When you tell somebody a story, you can come back 10 years from now, they would forget the lesson, forget everything else that surrounds that story. But they will come back and say, I heard that story before. So I believe that when you are dealing with trauma, is heavy enough, right? It's a heavy thing. But when you bring storytelling into it, you're also bringing your own self into it. You're allowing somebody to come into your life, and you're telling your own story too, so that they can say, wow, I resonate. That part resonate with me. So I'm going to open up myself so that I can share too. So for me, storytelling, rehabilitate, and I call it rehabilitative, not just telling stories because you want to feel like telling stories, but we're talking about rehabilitative, the ones that help to rehabilitate your thinking, that helps to rehabilitate your thoughts, and just help to rehabilitate your life.
Are there any other areas or the journey for your own mental health and wellness that you may have done besides this trauma storytelling that you kind of stumbled upon?
Wow. So there's something called your vision touch. That's another part of my life. On social media, they call me the deep freezer lady, and there's a reason for that. If you Google it, you'll hear the deep freezer lady. And when I was a little bit younger, I went through a major divorce. My kids were 4 and 2. And I literally, when I say lost my mind, I'm not just playing around with it. I mean, I lost my mind, period. And for 6 months, I was out cold. I didn't know where I was. And when I came through, I could remember the only thing I was looking for were my 2 babies, like where the husband was gone. I'd lost homes, I'd lost businesses. I mean, just literally lost everything. Cars, everything was gone, just gone. And I was just left out there, homeless. And I didn't want to go back home to Africa to say I failed. I don't want to go back home to tell my family, the person you said don't marry, I married, and boom, there he is. It blew up in my face. So I didn't want to go. And the cool thing about it was that when I came in, I didn't tell anybody I was a princess. So that was even good. I said, well, at least nobody knows. So they won't be able to find me in America or know what's going on with me. But there was something that happened to me when I relocated to New Jersey, and I call that vision torch. Master's degree, no money, nothing. Couldn't find a job, but I found one. And the one that I found was in, just bear with me for a second. This is a little bit heavy for me.
Sure.
The one that I found was in a grocery store by an Indian man who gave me the position. And he said this to me, he said, I can't give you the one in the front, but I can give you a place which is, if you're able to come graveyard shift and just clean the deep freezer, I'll pay you to clean the deep freezer. And I would go out there and I would go in and clean the deep freezer. I was in so much pain. It's a 7-Eleven store. That's right. I remember. I was in so much pain that I would literally walk into that deep freezer and didn't feel the freezer. I didn't feel the pain, nothing. And I remember I would roll on the floor from one end to the other, and I would sit there. And it was inside that deep freezer that I began to see and hear exit strategy, the strategy of how to go from not just trauma to recovery, but from poverty, into wealth, not just wealth financially, but also mentally, emotionally, how to heal. And would you believe that at that point, the same freezer that I would initially run away from became my haven. It became my safe haven. And every night I would run into it and sat there. If you are here listening to me, you can go on Amazon and get the collection. It's called Your Vision Torch, How to Re-Engineer Your Life Purpose. And in that book came out of that deep freezer, that collection. The book itself, the journal, and also the inspirational books came out of that. So Your Vision Torch is another one that is very huge for me. There is something that I've literally changed people's lives, not just in America, but I've literally seen people written me from places that I never even knew existed on this planet that would say, well, we read Your Vision Torch, we bought the collection, and thank you for doing that.
Wow, thank you so much for being so open and honest with us and with our audience. That is very brave of you to share with us in this environment. So the pandemic really has hit a lot of nurses hard in many ways. What kind of advice can you give us who have been impacted in our mental health and our mental wellness, have been impacted, especially us nurses? Like, what kind of advice can you give us who might be on the edge and feel like they're going to fall off?
Yeah. A day ago, I wrote an op-ed about nurses as a whole. 2020 was supposed to be nurse of the, is it year of the nurse or something?
Yeah.
But the pandemic kind of took over. And I'm not too sure if we're even celebrated as much as we should be celebrated. And now we stand a risk that if we're not careful, if we as nurses do not take care of our mental health, next year might be the year of nurse exiting, the exodus of nurses out of healthcare. And the reason is because of our mental health. We are meant to care for everybody else. And nurses are the worst at taking care of themselves. And that's the truth. And so it's important that as we take that stand to take care of everybody else, we need self-care. We need to put ourselves first. There's nothing selfish about it, because look at it this way. When you take care of yourself very well, you are able to take care of somebody else, and you're able to last longer in this field that you are so needed for. So it's important that we need to start doing self-care. Whatever it is that you love to do. With me, I love to write. People tell me, oh my God, you write, how could you? But that's what I love to do. So it's easy. Find something that you love to do and anchor whatever it is that you do as a nurse on that thing, and just simply enjoy life. Enjoy life.
What kind of advice can you give us as nurses about maybe accessing resources that we might not know are out there to find some support?
Okay. So for me, I'm always on the internet anyway. So, and you start with NAMI, right? NAMI is a very good place to start, where
Can
you
you
can.
say, I'm sorry, can you tell us what NAMI means?
Oh, NAMI is National Alliance for, I don't know, mental illness. National Alliance for Mental Illness, NAMI. But a lot of times when you just put NAMI, you will get NAMI instead of the long stuff. And they have resources there for mental health, for even nurses, for practitioners. They have places that they can refer you to, groups. And now, because of the pandemic, there are lots of online groups that are popping up, that it's even, look at it this way, even if you don't know any kind of groups out there, if it's just 2 or 3 or 4 of you, you can come together and just form, a group of people that are supporting one another. It could be once a month that you guys meet and you just support one another. It's important that we support each other, not only a mental capacity, but also in entrepreneurship, in those areas, in writing. For me, writing is healing. Healing, that's writing for me. That's restorative. That's something that's restorative for me. So whatever it is, if you have friends, 2, 3, 4, hey, you just became a group that can support each other.
Great. That's great advice. I think you and I both talked a little bit before we came on live that we both work in the space of trauma-informed care. In some ways to heal secondary traumatic stress is by sharing your narrative in a group that you feel comfortable, that you can be vulnerable with no judgments. And I think for nurses, we're a little apprehensive sometimes that we are going to be judged because we're supposed to be so strong. So finding those within our own, like you said, those few, maybe on our unit, maybe within our organization or even outside the organization that could support us is probably the first place to start.
Absolutely.
I think we would be surprised how many other people who are feeling the same exact way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I said something to someone in one of my op-ed 2 nights ago. I said, Lord, don't call me a hero, right? And you'll hear in the TV, everyone say, oh, nurses are heroes. I said, no, I don't want to be a hero. I just want to go back home and be safe. I want to go back home to my family. Can you not call me a hero? Do the right thing, vaccinate, do something, protect me as your nurse. If you don't tell me I'm your hero, protect me as your nurse. Help me with my mental capacity. Help me to heal. Help me to recover. Then you can call me a hero. Until then, don't call me a hero.
Yes, I think we have, the more you share with us, the more I realize that you and I are much more alike than we are different, in the fact that that phrase drives me crazy too. Nurses are not heroes because that implies that we don't feel, that
That's
we're
right.
not allowed to, cry. We're not allowed to be angry. We're not allowed to be afraid. So I thank you on a national level, because you have such an influence nationally to say that. And I encourage you to please say it more.
Yes. Like, don't call me your hero.
Exactly.
Yes, and I can't believe it's already the end of the hour. Princess Fumi, it has been such a delight. You've shared so many great insights, and there's so many amazing comments in the chat. There's so many nurses who have taken away a lot of lessons and expertise from your talk today. So we just want to say thank you. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or learn about your work?
Oh, they can always just Google me. It's always funny when I say that. It's like, oh, Google me.
Well, you are definitely, you're on the media, you're on YouTube, you have your website. What is your website?
Oh, Dr. Fumi, DRFUMI, Psych DMP.
Do you have Do
Oh,
you have
what
a
is her
name on
name?
YouTube?
Oh, somebody just asked for my name on. Oh, just
YouTube.
reach out to Princess of Suburbia, Princess of Suburbia on YouTube.
Great.
Awesome. We hope you will come back again, because we still have
Thank you.
so much more to ask and talk about, and we just want to, get more information from you and learn from you, and
Thank you so
hopefully,
much.
be inspired by you. So we hope that you'll come back again
Thank
and
you.
join us,
Thank you
because
for
an
having me.
hour wasn't enough. An hour wasn't enough,
Definitely
obviously.
not. We'll have
It
you
just
back
went
for
like
sure.
that.
It was just so much. There was so much, and we just love all the different insights you shared. Thank you, and for sharing your
Thank you.
story. There's just so much to take away, so we really appreciate it. And thank you to our listeners, to everyone who tuned in today from LinkedIn, from Facebook, from YouTube. We really appreciate you joining us. And if you're interested in joining us in the future, we host our spotlights for Fifth Window monthly, so please tune in. You could join us on our social media platforms as well. I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat or in the screen here. You could visit us at linktree.com/fifthwindow, or you could visit our website directly at www.fifthwindow.com if you'd like to learn more. And we will have many more spotlights to come. So we really appreciate everyone for joining. And thank you again so much, Princess Fumi. It has been an honor
Thank
to
you.
chat with you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
We'll see you all next time.